Welcome back to the Moyne Way Podcast, exploring the people, ideas, and everyday moments that shape life here at Moyne. Told through authentic stories, open conversations, and the spirit that makes this community one of purpose and belonging. Thanks for joining me this week on the Moyne Way Podcast, and I am blessed to be in the presence of the one and only Nicole Flores.
Hello.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing great.
Yes. All right. So I just want to start with your journey to Moyne. Obviously, you do some things with cultural and social engagement that we'll get into, but I want to hear about what brought you to Moyne and why did you choose to stay?
Well, I would say this is my second time back at Moyne because I am a 2002 alumna. I graduated in 2002 with a criminal justice psychology background.
Wow.
And then went about into the world and did lots of things. Had a family, stayed home with them for a while, and then when I was looking to come back to work, there was an opportunity here in advancement that I took a temporary position that turned into full time, and then I started working on the Erie 21 program here back in 2018 and transitioned to Erie 21 full time. Did that for several years. And then loved the program still, and I wanted to work more one-on-one with students. So this position that I'm currently in, which has had a couple iterations since I've been in it, but currently I'm the director for cultural and social engagement and the first-gen class dean as well.
Wow.
And so that has given me the opportunity to have a more student-facing position, which has been, I think I've spent my whole life trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And apparently now I'm grown up because I'm in a position that I actually enjoy very much.
That's awesome. And I was gonna ask, did you see any? I mean, you kind of just answered, but did you see anything from when you were young that you felt like was leading you to work with students and want to be?
Yeah, I don't think I actually put that together until recently. I think my entire career, I guess, I have worked in different places here and there, but always within a DEI realm, so a diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging realm. When I was first out of college, I worked I taught in Florida for a couple of years and worked with in special ed. And then when I moved back to New York, I worked at Learning Disabilities Association, which is now called Launch, and I worked with adults that had learning disabilities and helped them gain employment. And did that for a while, and then when I started raising a family, I stepped away from official paid work, even though having a family is also work.
Yes, absolutely.
And then, but always had worked within some sort of DEI realm, and not necessarily at the time, like this is 25 years ago, there wasn't really words for it. And then when I started working here at Moyne, my interest areas were always kind of, even though I was in advancement, it was always kind of leaning towards the students and how I could, be more engaged with the students. So Erie 21 opened that door, I think. And then when this position opened up, I was like, oh, that makes, that really actually sounds like what I kind of have been searching for my whole life. Like it's working in the DEI realm, which at the time, early on, I didn't know what that meant. But I knew that I was drawn to it. So I think when I saw the job description for this position, I was kind of like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense for me.
That's Nicole right there.
Yeah.
And what was your experience like being a student here?
I often say, especially when I started working here in advancement, I often said that I might have not taken full advantage of the student experience here. I think I was more concerned about the social aspect than I was the academic aspect, and I didn't necessarily take as much advantage of like the clubs and the activities and the engagement as I did. And again, that I think a lot has to do with being first generation. I kind of was searching for where I fit in and who my people were, and I think, not recognizing it at the time, but I felt like kind of like a outsider here and not knowing why. And, looking back now with the students that I work with, I'm like, oh, that's why there wasn't necessarily as much, I would say, safe space here as there was, or there wasn't as much then as there is now. So I think for me, I literally did my parents had no idea what was going on in college. They were just proud that I went to college, so they kind of just sent me off and were like, "Hey, do great. You're in college. Good job." And which I think generationally is what happened at the time. Where now, like, I feel like parents are very much involved in their children's college experience, and if something happens, we get calls from parents, and my students are constantly talking to their parents about what's going on, and I'm like, oh wow, like my mom and dad were just kind of like, great, you got into college, you're going to do well. So I feel like my experience was kind of probably more detached than I would like it to have been. And like I said now, like if I knew how much went into the college experience behind the scenes, as far as like the people who like work with the students, the people who are in financial aid, the people, advancement, all of it. Like I was like, oh man, I really just took it for granted.
Yeah.
And didn't know. But I mean, you don't know at that age, but also like there are students here that I'm like, yes, that student is literally fully engaged, taking advantage of the college experience and just like, adding things to their resume. And I just wasn't in that mindset. And again, I think it is part of being first gen. And my parents just were like, oh, she got into college and she's great. And I didn't have any kind of like, I didn't have an adult say to me, like, you should be doing A, B, and C and getting ready for your future. Because even when I graduated, I was kind of like, I don't know what I want to do. I graduated. Now I get a job. So, yeah, I think it was more detached, and so I feel like that is part of like my goal in my position is to make sure that the students I'm working with do feel connected and like they belong here, because I didn't, partially to my own, fault, I didn't feel that when I was here.
Well, I mean, we might as well just jump to the first gen. I mean, do you want to, most people should know, but could you explain what first generation means and then kind of talk about some of the things that you've seen from being in it yourself and working in the position?
Sure. Yeah. So it's funny because you think a lot of people know what first gen is, but it's funny because like even when I meet students, like a lot of our first year students, when I say to them, "Are you first gen?" They're like, "I don't know." And right. So first gen, by our definitions that we're using, is that neither one of your parents or guardians completed 4 years of college. So we usually get that information, when they fill out their financial aid stuff, we get that information. But then myself and Allison, who's the first year class dean, are trying to be more intentional about finding our first gen students. Because a lot of them I met with this year and they came in and sat with me. And I said, "Are you first gen?" And I explained it, and they were like, "No, I'm not." And I was like, "Okay, well, you checked a box at some point in time that said you were, and I can still work with you, and we can still hang out, but you're not first gen." And they're like, "Okay."
They didn't know what that.
So, but yes, so that's how we kind of determine who first gen is at this point. And then, interestingly enough, we have a lot of our first gen students are commuter students. A lot of them are are new Americans. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just first gen, there's a lot of, barriers and challenges that we have to address when we're working together.
And from your perspective, what do you think are some things that first gen students carry that others may not fully understand or really know about?
I think it really is the unknowns, like not knowing, like, I guess maybe with non-first gen students, so students who have parents that went to college, I think their parents, like, for instance, I'm sending my daughter away to college next year, and I know all the questions for her to ask, and I know where you need to go, and when you go to orientation, this is what you need to go do, and this is what you need to engage in. And I think the students that come here that don't have a parent that have that knowledge, they come and they kind of just exist and don't really think about those bigger pictures because they're just trying to survive. So like they're in survival mode and just trying to figure out, how am I going to pass my tests, how am I going to pass my class, and how am I going to pay for college? And those are like their top three things. And then, I always ask like, how is socially going? And, because those, for us, that's important for students to be engaged with other students and feel connected. But then they also don't think about like going to office hours for their faculty members, or asking those questions to their faculty members, or don't think that they can come and see someone like myself to ask the questions about, or don't know where to go when they're struggling financially. I lost, something as simple as like, I got in a car accident. I can't get back and forth to school. I don't have the money to use an Uber. How am I going to get back? You know what I mean? So like trying to figure out those barriers. And then if they don't know that there's people here to help them, I think that's kind of where they can kind of fall into the cracks.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that also, I could see how that ties into the cultural and social engagement work too, with trying to create those spaces for these students to feel inclusive and have outlets and things like that.
Yeah, and just to be able to feel like there's a community, and like, I mean, even going back to my own experience, like I couldn't identify that feeling that I had back then as like why I didn't feel like I fit in, because I had friends and I did everything, you know, but I still felt that feeling of like just like a, you know, a void that I didn't understand. So trying to identify, you know, working with the students and identifying for them, you know, where is a void? Like, are you involved in clubs? And they might not think is like, I have students that come in and like, I'm concentrating on academics. And I'm like, that's great. But like, you also need to have some kind of like fulfillment as a person beyond the academics here. So,
I mean, and do you want to kind of speak to like some things that how you help students navigate that? Because I can only imagine that could be so much, like so tough to try to balance. Like you're coming in as a first gen trying to figure all this stuff out, and you have this pressure of, speak on that, like the pressure of being a first gen and feeling like you have to have everything, you know, in place.
Yeah, I mean, because the other thing is, I forgot to, a lot of our students also, because their parents haven't had the college experience, their parents' expectations may be unrealistic as far as they think it's easy. Like, you just go to school and you're just doing school. It's not a big deal. Like, just do your work, you know. But this student also might have been encouraged by their parents to go into bio, and they're not a bio person. But because you can get jobs in bio, you know, in the medical field, like parents just think that that's where I'm going to spend my money for you to go to college. You're going to be in the medical field, and that's what we're going to do. So to kind of having those difficult conversations about, you know, do you think this is a good fit for you? You know, maybe should we be exploring other opportunities for you, you know, in your future? But then also we have to be very considerate, because they also have to have that conversation with their parents. So that's between them and their parents, and not, you know, so it's a very thin line. But yeah, I think trying to navigate also, like I said, like the social piece and like the activities that the programming and activities that I have, I try to keep it very like cast a wide net so that it's inclusive, you know, and no one feels, you know, excluded or like that they can't come. But also keeping in mind, so for instance, like our commuter students are here during the day, and it's hard for them to get back here at night. So we try to provide programming during the day so that they're here to be able to be engaged during the day and not have to like feel like they have to come back at night, you know, for a different activity. So trying to find that, you know, because there's a wide spectrum of individuals that we're working with. So finding at least some programming that works for a couple people here and a couple people there.
Intertwined.
Yes.
I feel you. And do you think like there's anything that you've seen from working in your position that just higher ed and places like this in general can do better to support these type of students? Like, what can people outside of the you know, straightforward work that you do kind of help, like the community?
Financial donations. No. No, I do think sometimes our like constraints do come within.
That's real though.
You know, like I'll talk. So we have the Cultural Community Lounge, which was created, I think, right after COVID, during COVID, right before I started here. And I had taken that on when I started this position. And we had some alumni that made a generous donation to be able to kind of decorate the lounge, get it comfy, and make it a place that is welcoming for the students to come to. And since then, we have continued with alumni, alumni, and typically it's our BIPOC alums or alum that are Black, Indigenous people of color that have continued to stay engaged with the college and want to be engaged with our BIPOC students. End up making donations once a month so that I can provide like snacks and refreshments and programming within the lounge so that it can continue to be like a safe space for our students. So that's just an example of like how outside donations can be beneficial to the students. But then also just like providing opportunities. So job shadowing or like a lot of our alum will come back and talk about their experience here. And then so next month I have, actually this month, I'm sorry, we have an alum coming that is a writer, and he has been in education, you know, middle school, high school, and then now in higher ed. And he's coming to talk about his experience as an LGBTQ individual, but then also as a graduate of Le Moyne and what his career path has looked like. But to make that connection with our students here, obviously we have our club, our LGBTQ club Prism, that I'll be collaborating with. But it just gives those students a chance to be able to meet someone that was in their shoes. He's a 03 graduate, so a while ago, yeah. Some may say. And he is just coming to share his experience and talk with the students and kind of give this was my perspective. Here I am now. This is what what has happened in my life. So just when the students do make those connections with alumni, and then they talk afterwards and here's my number, and so it does create that networking outside of the people here currently at Le Moyne.
And I'm interested to know personally, how has working with these students positively impacted you and shifted you as an individual? I mean, obviously you worked in a multitude of different spaces, but from your time back at Le Moyne, really working with this community, how has it really impacted you and shifted you?
That's an interesting question for me specifically. So I, how deep do I go with this? My background is my father is Native American and my mother is white, and I was raised as being a white person. So I think that does speak to some of the experience I had when I was here, because I was kind of in this where do I fit in type thing. I had gone to a predominantly white high school, schooling through my entire life, and then came to Le Moyne, which is a predominantly white institution that we call PWI. So I just didn't have any, I'd never really identified with my Native American side, and my father was very detached from his community, so I didn't have that background. And again, I just didn't know. It was unknown for me. So I just kind of, went about life. And then as I got older, I kind of started becoming a little bit more connected with that. When I started working here, it was an interesting time in my life. And I actually had come out at the time and was working, like I had said, in advancement, and then switched to Area 21. And then when I came into this position, which has only been about 4 years, I definitely feel like I have had an aha moment of this is why I didn't feel I also didn't know myself. I didn't know where to go for supports for myself when I was younger. And then so for me, and it sounds cliche, working with the students that I work with is inspirational, because I feel like a lot of them are engaged and they are confident in themselves and they do know who they are for the most part at 19, 20 years old. And for me, I'm wow, that would have made, not that I have any regrets in my life, but I'm it would have shifted my experience a little bit differently. So for me, it's kind of oh wow, this is, these students are coming into their own here at college at 20, 21 years old and going out into the world and kind of already having, and again, it's decades later. It's a different time. So it's a different world. But yeah, I definitely think for me, it's for me, the students that I work with, I'm always oh wow, you're a cool, I can't say kid, but you're
just
a cool
young adult.
Yes.
Young adult, they're learning.
Yes.
And what are some things that you feel should be prioritized in really preparing these young adults for success after college?
Yeah, so I would say there is a program that I do that I started with a colleague here that she's not at the college anymore, but it was her idea, so I won't take full credit for it, but we called it Next Waves. And it really is focused on some of our students that are first gen. They may be BIPOC. They may have never really had someone in their life that had a professional job, so they don't really know what to anticipate when they leave Le Moyne, as far as it's not a retail job. It's not in a restaurant. It's not, so it's not in food service. So what are those things that we need to anticipate that may or may not happen when you're in the professional world, and how do you manage them? So giving them the skills to kind of navigate the unknowns of the work world, and how can you professionally go about doing that? Because sometimes things happen and we don't know how to deal with them, and we weren't given the tools on how to address that conversation, or how to address that microaggression, or how to address something that you see happening that feels uncomfortable and you don't know why, and maybe helping kind of say what those things are so that they're prepared for them, but also like what are I'm really popular today, I'm sorry. What are the skills that you need to be able to, be not only like your work skills, but like your people skills when you leave here. Yeah.
Life. Yeah. Because I was going to talk about, like, I think a lot of times too, we view success through the lens of just getting good grades, getting your degree. But like, from the work you're doing and stuff, like, what does success look like outside the realms of just what you do in the classroom?
Yeah, I would say it's like maybe in sports, I'll make a sports connection. You're coachable. So like no one wants someone on their team that isn't coachable. It's because you may be great at your sport, you may be the best at your sport, but if you're also not coachable, which means being a good team, a good teammate, which means being able to hear, criticism and constructive criticism, hopefully, then you're not going to be successful. And I think a lot of the students that I work with that are successful here are those coachable students and are able to hear that feedback and ask for it. Like, like very much like ask for like, how do you think I did on that? And do you think I did okay? And not like the one that's coming in and saying, oh, I killed that. I'm the best, so I think definitely not coachable in the sense of athletics, but coachable in the sense of like life.
Yeah. Being able to be open-minded
and like open to having a mentor and having someone be able to kind of help you in your process and not trying to be as independent, which some
I was gonna say
can be a trauma response, and a lot of our individuals that like are here, we have trauma. We all have our own trauma, so so trying to maybe help with that.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of like a first gen student specifically, like the pressure or the mindset of like I have to do it on my own. Right. So that can create a barrier of not even knowing how to ask questions, not even knowing how to open up.
Yeah, and that's what I was going back to. That goes back to what I was saying before about like not knowing where to go for help. Yeah. But also not being comfortable asking for it. So like until we say to our students, so we try to catch them like first year students when they get here, like, these are the offices that you can go to for A, B, and C, and like they might think it's like, like, whatever, but then in 3 months when you're, looking for tutoring and you don't know where to go, then, you probably should have listened 3 months ago. But I'm here to tell you also again where you need to go. So
absolutely. And let's shift over to cultural and social engagement. When that comes to mind, how would you explain cultural and social engagement to people and kind of like what you do in that role specifically?
So like I had said, it's been a couple, we've had a couple iterations of what's been going on over the last couple years. But I would say it has evolved with me evolving in my position, because I kind of, again, walked into the position and it was my first student-facing position. So I would say it has taken me these last 4 years to get to the point where I feel like at the beginning of this year, the end of last year, I was kind of like, oh, finally, I feel like I have made the connection with the students and they know I'm here and they come to me when they need help, which wasn't easy to do. Like it's, the building the trust, building the consistency that you're there. Now I have students who stop into my office and, like, they're like, where have you been all day? And I'm like, well, I've had meetings all day. I'm so sorry that and so trying to establish that relationship with the students so that they know that I'm here to help them, but also establishing the programming that they can expect, each year that they, I feel like everything's cyclical here. And, like each month we have our diversity month. So like every September into October, we have Hispanic Heritage Month. So we always have programming throughout that. And then we have Native American Heritage Month. And so we have programming through that. So like, we just ended Black History Month and we had several things throughout that month. So I feel like, in my 4th year in this position, I'm finally at the point where students kind of have, and again, because the students come in a 4-year cycle, the students that are seniors now are the students that were first year when I was here. So we've kind of grown together, which will be sad at graduation. But and having those students that I know, like, hey, I'm having this event, it's this night, bring some of your friends, and just but then coming to me and being like, hey, we have our gala on this date, we work together on all that kind of stuff. And, like, how can I help them? Like, how can I navigate that process? And, like at 18, 19, 20 years old, like event planning isn't necessarily something that comes naturally.
I'm still learning
I do feel like I've become well-rounded in event planning. So, I have my events that I put on, and then I assist all of our diversity clubs. We have about 13
Yeah.
diversity clubs that I help on a fairly regular basis. Some more than others need help, but in putting on events that represent their clubs, and helping
Yes.
market those type of things, and making sure it's not just, for me, the big piece is that it's not just, so say I'll use El Progreso, for instance, they have their Latinx banquet at the beginning of the year during, we try to do it within, we'll usually make it because it's kind of early, but we try to have it within early October, mid-October, but not having just our Latinx students there. Like, I want other students to be there to be able to experience the culture and experience, it's an amazing event. So like, how can we get other students there that don't identify as Latinx, but can still come and experience the culture and appreciate the event? So I think that's been over the last couple of years, is realizing that everything is in pockets here. And, like this, a lot of our diversity clubs exist within pockets, and how can we get them to work together, which I have seen over the last couple of years. Like, even we have an event coming up, I believe, in, I want to say it might be this weekend actually, and it's typically one club that puts it on, and now there's like 3 clubs collaborating on it. So I think that is, we're moving in the right direction.
And speak on the importance of, for me, like my experience at Le Moyne, definitely being here as a student, now working here, like I do love the way it's really moving more towards diversity, inclusivity, people of all different cultures and heritages and all that stuff coming into one space. Speak on the importance of that, especially in a place, that's like this.
Yeah, like this. I would say, it's silly, and again, another cliche, but like, representation is more important than we think it is. And especially, I think, if you are not in the minority, you might not understand how important it is to see other people that look like you and have similar experiences to you. So creating those spaces and helping students, it might be something as simple as, like, again, the Latinx banquet. I've never been to the Latinx banquet. I identify as a Latina, and I go and I'm like, oh my God, there's 100 other Latinx students here. I might have been considering transferring because I didn't feel welcome here, but now I found this whole group of people. I would say also, like our LGBTQ students, like, it is a very small group here on campus. So when I do events, I try to market them as much as possible, and work with our Prism Club and get it out there, because it's also is a group that doesn't feel safe, and especially now, and like in our current state of the state.
Yeah.
We it's not a comfortable thing, to be out and open and in a environment that isn't necessarily flowing with LGBTQ individuals, but like being able to find that those other individuals in the community, or allies, or staff on campus that are allies, or faculty members, that's a huge thing. Is like, a lot of our students will be like, we had this event last night and there was like a bunch of faculty there, and they get excited about that and they like that, or a bunch of staff was there, and I think next on the 10th, we have our First Gen Club is hosting a mix and mingle with our staff, faculty, and some administrators. And it's an opportunity for the students to kind of go and meet, mix and mingle with the administrators and staff and faculty, but just to get them to know someone. Even just one conversation with a staff member or faculty member might be like, oh, I needed to meet that person, and I feel comfortable talking to them now because I know a little bit about them and I know what they do, and it gives that comfort level that might provide some, like, feeling of safety.
And you spoke on this earlier, and I see it every day with the students that you interact with and stuff, but speak on the importance of staff and faculty really cultivating real, genuine relationships with the students and the young adults that come through here.
Yeah, it's funny because I can, like, there's students that come to me and they'll talk about, this faculty member and that faculty member, and you get like what I call regulars, like they're the, they're the ones that you always hear about, and like, and I think that shapes. There's this person, Stefan Green, that people might know, that like definitely like individuals like him help students feel like they belong here in the community because they're willing to work with the students and they go above and beyond and they go to the activities, and we have faculty members that, don't just check out at the end of the day when their, classes are over. They go to the events outside, and, those are the faculty members that the students, are excited to see at graduation and, want to, engage with outside of the classroom because, and you got to think of like this, when our students come here, they're leaving their families, they're coming here, and they don't, you're on your own. And to be able to find a mentor here and have an adult that's like supportive of what your journey is, even if it's not in your, your area, your concentration or your major, just to have someone to be like, hey, you're doing great, keep going, So I think I don't know that our staff and faculty realize how much it impacts the students, but I see it and I hear it pretty regularly when a student's like, well, so-and-so's been helping me with this. And, so it makes a huge impact on the experience here.
Absolutely. And before we get into the rapid round questions.
Oh, wow. Scary.
Yeah, no, rapid fast questions. Yeah. Could you speak to any first-gen student that's listening and just provide some, insight, encouragement, some wisdom that you have, just something that you feel like that's needed to hear when you're trying to navigate that time?
I would, again, I'm harping on there are resources and people here to help you. Like, I feel like sometimes our students come to us when they're in crisis mode as opposed to like, I'm doing okay. I don't anticipate anything coming up. So, when I do meet with students, especially like this year is my first time as like the first gen class dean, and meeting the students and kind of being like, I'm here as a resource. I might not have the answer to your question. And that goes for everyone on campus. Like, they could come to you and you can say, okay, I'm here to support you. I might not know the answer to that question, but I'm going to find the person that has the answer to that question. And I think sometimes, like I talked about the silos, like students might see us in our silos and not think like, oh, hey, I can go to Isaiah, and even though he's in the Gray Center, he can help me figure out my financial aid. You're not going to have the answer, but you know who to take them to. Person. Yes. So I think just utilizing the resources that are here to get through the process, because it's a lot and you can't do it all on your own.
Absolutely.
And no one does it on their own. You know what I mean? Like, those students that are successful here have literally utilized every resource possible for them to have here.
Yes. And you're not alone. That's a very important message.
You are not alone, which we just had our Yana week last week with that we do every February. My office and the Wellness Center collaborate on, we like to do it in February because we all feel like the dark and gloomies by the end of February, because we haven't seen the sun in 6 months, but whatever. So we do Yana week, to just let the students know you are not alone. That's what Yana stands for. And we just do activities throughout the whole week that are trying to help students recognize, like, there's other people here. There's other people that might be feeling the same way you're feeling. Keep going. So we do activities each day, and we had a lot of fun.
And before we get into the fast one, I actually have one last question because you just sparked a thought. Is there a common thread or theme that you see across all types of students that they all kind of have to navigate when coming to college, and you feel like you've seen come up in a multitude of different
I would say, like, the many, trying to, like you had talked about earlier, about meeting, like, the many expectations and, like, feeling maybe sometimes having a sense of hopelessness trying to meet all those expectations, but not realizing that everyone feels that way. Like, even adults feel that way at a certain point in time, and it might appear as if, like, this student has it all together because they're on this board and they're in this club, but, like, truly underneath they might be like, it's like what the duck above, like the duck in the water where their feet are going crazy underneath. And
but then, they look so calm.
But they look so calm. And so I think that perception of, like, I feel like I'm not doing great, I feel like I'm struggling, but that person over there looks like they're, like, have it all together, when in reality that person might be struggling just as much as you are. So just having a realistic perspective of that everyone is kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, and finding those people that can kind of help ground you in that perspective.
Yeah.
Like, hey, trust me, everybody has their own stuff that they're trying to navigate. You're not alienated in this situation.
Yes, yeah.
So, all right. Now it's time for the fast round questions. You ready?
I'm so excited. Yes.
Okay, these are just quick one-word answers.
Okay,
Just
one word? That's all I get?
one word or one sentence.
Okay, one word or one sentence. Those are two different
just
things
leave
for
it,
me.
Yeah, just leave it open. Just whatever you feel. Okay, so Nicole, these are your fast round questions.
All right.
First one is coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. You don't drink tea at all?
No.
Okay. Morning person or night owl?
Night.
Night owl?
Morning is, we should have done this in the evening. I would be much more entertaining.
Okay. Okay. Favorite spot on campus?
I would have to say my office because the students come there. Like they know where to find me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
My office.
Your office.
And it's nicely decorated,
Yeah.
and it was Barb Carper's former office, and I have a window, so I get natural sunlight. So all the things. Yes, my office.
Okay. What's a book, podcast, or show that you'd recommend to all students or to some students? Anything. It could be.
The Moyne Way Podcast. I have to admit, I actually don't listen to podcasts at all. I will say this is a book that I read recently, which isn't, I mean, I would recommend it. It's called Cast. We did it for a book club here recently.
Yeah, there you go.
It gives a very, it's also kind of dark and gloomy, but very realistic. And it talks about the caste systems that are here in America that no one really recognizes and how they were created. And
That's deep.
it is deep. And it literally, when we were reading it, it was kind of like, it's heavy on the soul, especially right now. Going through what we're going through in our country.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, for me, it would be a good book for people to read that, I mean, it's good for anyone to read, but maybe someone who might be interested in exploring, like, outside of their own experiences.
Yeah. You want to touch on that a little bit?
I don't.
Okay, I'm saying, like, the outside of your own experience, how important that is.
Yes, and, like, looking at things from a perspective that maybe you haven't used before or been introduced to, because it's eye-opening.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on that. Who or what inspires you most right now?
I would say what inspires me the most right now is spring coming, because I am struggling through this winter.
I feel you though.
I'm struggling.
right there with you.
Which sounds silly, but literally,
No.
every day I'm like,
No, this is one of them
day
ones.
closer.
This is one of them ones.
Yes.
By
So-
far the worst that I've experienced being in Syracuse, and I've been here 4 or 5 years now. So 4 years, yeah.
Yes.
It's wilding.
I literally, I think I had said to you, I took a trip to Florida like 2 weeks ago, and I was like a different person for the entire week that we were there, and I
This is crazy.
can't wait for it to be
I cannot
springtime.
wait.
Yes.
If you could instantly learn one new skill, what would it be?
Speaking Spanish.
Yes, me too. Well, I would be multilingual. I could speak any
True.
language.
Fair. That's you went big. I just kind of went reachable.
Go big or go home.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, but Spanish. Speaking
Yep.
Spanish.
Yes.
That would, yeah. The multilingual would help you
Yes.
tremendously in
Yes,
your role.
100%.
You're
I would
already
be-
A+. You would go to A++.
Ugh.
Okay. Favorite food spot in or around Syracuse?
Favorite food spot? Francesca's.
I haven't tried that.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta try. One word to describe Lemoyne.
Community. I feel like
Okay.
that's a repeat one. Cliche. Everyone
It's
says
okay,
that.
yeah. And if everyone from the Lemoyne community was listening right now, what would you want them to know, or what would you want to say?
I think, again, repeating that our students may not appear as if they want to engage as much as they actually do. Because I feel like every time I have an event and it might be a new student that comes to it and they're like, oh my God, I really needed that. I've heard that a lot. Like, I really needed that. And I'm like, okay, like I need to do that again. But like providing them opportunities to be engaged, they don't necessarily, so popular. They don't necessarily realize they need it until they do it. So kind of like...
Absolutely. And just as a community continuing to foster those spaces.
Yes. Yeah.
That's huge.
When sometimes as an administrator, it might feel frustrating when you have an event and only a couple people show up.
Very true.
But then the couple people do say, wow, I really needed that.
Yes. And you got to just trust the process too.
Yes.
Some things are not overnight successes. You got to
Right.
you got to do a couple events, get out there a little bit, community engage, you know
Do
how
the
it is.
song and dance.
Yeah. Do the whole cha-cha slide, all that stuff, man. So, but that is it for our conversation,
All
Nicole.
right.
So thank you so much.
All right.
for
Thank
today.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for watching. That is it for today. We want to give a huge thanks to LCTV for making this podcast possible here in the studio space, to the Carroll College of Arts and Sciences, to the Grace Center for making this possible, and to Put God First, whose support also makes this podcast run each and every week. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Grace Center and LCTV in the links below so you never miss an episode. See you next week.
Adios.